Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. And my guest today is more than just a legendary voice. He's been nominated for a Grammy, he's won multiple Juno Awards, he's created music in many different genres. But on February 7th, he's about to release his most personal record yet. It's called The Life I Got to My Most Beloved. Please welcome Gino Vannelli. Welcome, Gino.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Yeah. So the subtitle of this record, To My Most Beloved, says it all. The record was written for your wife as she battled cancer. At what point in that journey did you decide that you wanted to write about this and turn it into music?
Well, there are one or two songs that I've written a while back but never finished. But the bulk of the album, I started to write about as soon as Patricia got ill, and the battle started and it intensified with the years. And I, of course, went through the journey with her. Uh, Some of the songs I didn't end up putting on the record were songs more of anger and why her. But the songs that I ended up keeping were the songs about the way I truly felt, and that was the fact that I honored and admired her courage and was with her all the way. And she never complained or anything like that. She just went through it. She went through multiple surgeries, which was just obliterating. And so not that I wanted to make the record a celebration, but I really truly wanted to make it a tribute and honor to my late wife.
Well, it's interesting because while there are naturally the more melancholic and sad songs, for the most part, I felt this record to be that celebration. Parts of it are very positive and uplifting and celebrating what you guys had. And I think that is just as important when you're looking at something like this.
Well, especially when she's with you and she's fighting this terrible cancer. You can't, be, as I said in my last post, on my Facebook page, I had finished the lyrics to Stormy River, and the last lyric being, my sweet departed love, and I knew it was coming, but I couldn't play her the song.
Mm.
So, you know, only those who go through it know exactly what you're feeling, especially Trish and I had such a close relationship, even closer than ever in the last 10, 15 years. We shared everything. I mean, our deeply held spiritual beliefs, our political beliefs, our religious beliefs, our societal beliefs, all our family beliefs, you name it. And of course, we had differences, but we really admired each other, for holding on to our belief systems. And obviously, she was tested in her way, and I was tested in mine. And I'm continuing to be tested in the sense that I miss her so much, and I miss that ear that I would wake up to, that I could speak to, our breakfasts together and all that. And I know I'm not alone, but it's a funny thing, Jeff. When you go through it, you feel alone.
Yeah. And you talk about your journey and your belief system being tested. I think this record, it's a lot about your journey as well as you listen to it. Talk to me about one of the songs that I think is probably the most powerful on the record, and that's Come to Jesus Moment,
Mhm.
especially following The Life I Got.
Yep.
Just talk to me a
Well,
little about how that came about.
well, Trisha was very much involved with that moment. I'd spent a few weeks in South America, and I ended up in Peru, and this was the late '80s, mid to late '80s, and I ended up in Lima, and then going to Cusco, and then going to Machu Picchu, and ended up staying there for a while. And my life was turned around, and the song describes my life being turned around by some transpersonal experience. And Patricia was very much part of it because I, when I got back from that trip, I was so altered, so moved that I know it sounds like a cliche, but I couldn't ground myself. because when you have these strange, deeply out of body experiences, and you see things that are that you haven't seen before and that you didn't know existed. And then when I did my studies in the subsequent years, there are things that many, many others have seen before. She was there for me, and she was there to make sure that I did keep grounded and I kept focused on what it was that I wanted to do, and got me through a difficult time. So, I mean, that the come to Jesus moment is the moment that I had that experience and that I struggled to make sense of it and struggled to get back on a path here on Earth. And it sounds exotic, but it's really simple. I mean, people go through it in their own ways. And mine was a sort of two by four up in the mountains.
And you did nearly everything on this record, from writing to performing nearly every instrument on it, producing it. Was doing this all yourself part of the process that kind of had to happen, or is that just normally the way you prefer to work?
I can work any way. I love to work with musicians, and I like to work with maybe sometimes just a co-producer. And sometimes I like to work alone. It really depends. And for this record, I built this place that you see now in the
Mhm,
last, 2, 3 years. And I did it. It's right on my property. I did it because I knew that Trisha would need me to be
mhm,
close to her. And in the last year, it was almost hourly. So I really couldn't go off. And so and I found it a little bit difficult in Trisha's condition to invite people.
mhm,
So I decided that I was going to just use my instrumental knowledge of all the rhythm section instruments and do the record myself. And of course, I've learned how to orchestrate and all that. So in songs like The Dark, Across the Dark Night, I didn't think anything of just orchestrating the whole thing myself. But I did work with a co-producer. His name was Peter Phil, and he's oddly enough, this what makes the record a little bit unique. He co-produced the record from Athens, Greece. So we
oh,
would
wow.
we'd almost every morning
Mhm,
do a Zoom call or a Skype call and go over cuts, approach. I would send him an MP3. He'd give me his feedback on it, and we'd go over it, and we we kind of circulated that
mhm,
way. And then I had a few guests that especially back vocalists,
mhm.
a couple from Canada, a couple from here in Portland, and Alan Hines, who played with me live, did do a really fine guitar solo on "It's All Good, Mama."
Mhm.
So I mean, there were guests here and there, but yeah, you're right. For the most part, I chose to do it myself because I had a vision, an audio vision, you might say, and I wanted to complete it. But also it's because I never knew what my schedule would be.
Right. Mhm. Now, changing gears a little bit, kind of looking back through your career, you saw a lot of success early, with People Gotta Move, and, the big boom with I Just Want to Stop and Living Inside Myself. You came from a very musical family, but were you prepared for kind of that success of touring with Stevie Wonder and Grammy nominations and Juno Awards? Was something like that on your radar coming from a musical background, or were you just there to make music and had to deal with the rest?
That stuff never really meant very much to me. I mean, it was nice to be nominated and not very much fun to lose to Copacabana. But I really didn't care that much, Jeff.
Mm,
Um, it was always just sort of a pat on the back. And how do you feel about a pat on the back?
yeah.
You wouldn't deny it, but you'd say, well, if I didn't get it, it wouldn't make a difference in my life.
Mm,
And so I was always very hell bent on just creating music the way I wanted to create. And it was also something to do, something to. It's a spiritual journey in the sense that you keep mirroring yourself and you keep seeing where you were 3 years ago as compared to now or what you want to be in the future. So after 23 albums, I could see the journey myself, and some of the journey, was I have praise for. For instance, that's why I redid Keep On Walking,
Mm.
because I was just listening to it one day on Spotify, the old, the original version from 1975, and I admired the tune. I thought it was a good tune. I said the only thing is I would maybe do it this way, and I was quite taken by my new idea. I said, we got to record it. So I went in the studio again, basically by myself, and started producing the whole thing. I said, we got to do this live and put it on the record. And Peter did his backgrounds to it, which really, really were good. Peter Phil, and it turned out to be, kind of a new jazzier version of the original, but it's fun to sing and fun to do live.
You have a pretty amazing musical DNA that I think really runs through your career from pop to jazz to classical to performing for the Pope and recording in different languages. Do you feel that there's a sweet spot of your music, or do you really enjoy that fluidity of being able to do all of these different things?
Well, I mean, I really enjoy playing with orchestras. I just did a concert a few months ago with the Quebec Philharmonic, and there were all arrangements that I had penned, most of them. Um, I enjoy performing in front of 60-piece orchestras. I also enjoy doing just piano vocal performances. And I really enjoy playing with my Portland band. I mean, we're like, I think 8 to 10 pieces on stage. That's very much fun too. I mean, it's all really just music to me. I mean, I like writing too. Right now, I'm working on it's called a Book of Seven. And it's a 7 book series of short stories. Actually, they're graphic short stories or graphic novellas, you might call them, that were inspired by real life experiences that I just took liberties to expand upon. I really kind of enjoy it all. It art, is I could admire from sound to painting to sculpting to really anything. Uh, maybe I have one or two more records in me, but I think what I'm going to be concentrating on in the future is the 7 stories that I've written. I'm going to dare to write 3 to 5 songs for every story and create almost like a still movie
Yeah.
for every book.
Do you do the illustrations as well, or are you working with somebody on that?
No, that I mean, I'm okay with that, but not to the level that I want to be. So actually, my brother Ross's son, Alessandro Vannelli, did a lot of the graphic art on the first book, The Falconer, and that will be coming out this year.
Great. We definitely look forward to that. And there's been a big surge over the past decade or so in your music, particularly I Just Want to Stop, thanks to the yacht rock phenomenon. And what are your thoughts on how just this term came and all of a sudden people discovered and rediscovered all of this great music of yours and so many others?
Well, it's a natural thing. I mean, as our generation got older, we just didn't want to be grandmas and grandpas and just kind of knit and weave and basket weave and sit and watch the grandchildren grow. I think a lot of people in our age group that grew up in the 60s and 70s really had this notion that they grew old, but they didn't want to grow old in nature.
Mhm.
And so, they love going to cruises and going on cruises. And I did a couple myself and found them to be very, very much alive and full of vim and vigor, like they were in their youth. So maybe it's a desperate attempt. I don't know. I don't really care about that. All I know is that they're a great audience to play in front of. They're very anxious and they're like kids, or
Yeah.
at least, re-kids,
And
refitted.
you'd mentioned playing in front of an orchestra and some of the shows you do. You went a really long time without performing.
Yeah, in
What
the
was it that
80s.
finally brought you back to the stage and to a point where you can enjoy doing it?
Well, the first thing was that I had run into difficulty with Arista Records in the early 80s. And it was sort of a George Michael or Prince kind of deal where they didn't want to release my stuff. And
Mhm.
so we got into litigation, and that really held me back for 3 or 4 years, actually. And so that had a very big impact on my ability to tour. And then I finally signed with a record company from France, and that's how Black Cars came out.
Mhm.
And then it came out worldwide. And by that time it was 1985, 86. And that's when the whole Peruvian thing happened. And I didn't tour because I went back to college and I studied the humanities and theology for about 6 to 7 years.
Mhm.
And I only started touring again by maybe early 90s.
Mhm.
So it was a study period. And it was really taking stock of myself, getting through that whole experience in Peru, and really, in a sense, being born again,
Mhm.
knowing that because I had done music since I was a child. I was signed to RCA Victor when I was 17 years old. I signed with A&M when I was 20. So I grew up making
Yeah.
music. And when it suddenly stopped because of legalities and things of this world, I was so stymied and so disappointed, um, and blocked that I knew that that door was no longer open to me.
Mhm.
So I need to find another door. And the only way to find another door was to find the ability to find that door within me. And that's when the study period and the intellection and the reflection all took place.
Mhm. Do you see yourself touring for this record or doing
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple of shows here or there? What are
We
the
have
plans?
a show coming up in Austin and Atlanta,
Mhm.
March 20th and March 22nd. And then we're doing a college, a university in Texas in April that I'm going to give a master class.
Oh, wow.
Then we're going to be playing Chicago, Detroit, New York,
Mhm.
Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. I mean, we'll have a fair amount of concerts this year, yes.
Well, great. I'm out here in Connecticut, so not far from New York. Hopefully, we'll be able to catch you.
Yeah, we're playing, I believe it's Sony Hall in New York.
Oh, great venue.
It's a
Very
great,
nice.
yes.
Well, the record, as we said, comes out on February 7th. You've talked kind of about the graphic novels and how they maybe have one or two records left in you. What do you see as your next steps? I mean, as you play some of these shows, is this year going to kind of be dedicated to getting the novels out there?
Well, the first novel will definitely come out this year. I
Mhm.
mean, because it is done and it's ready to be released right now. I'm speaking to a few publishing houses about it, deciding whether I should self-publish or give it to a publisher. I mean, these days are very different, as you well know. Um, and you know, we we're being asked to go really to go tour the world. I mean, we're asked to go back to Europe. We're being asked to go play in South America. And I might do South America this year.
Mhm.
So I mean, I could start to think. I mean, could begin or entertain the thought of doing another album maybe next year.
Mhm.
But more so, as I said before, I think my next project in the studio will be doing the 3 to 5 cuts for the
Yeah.
Falcon. And we're also organizing some concerts with the Quebec Philharmonic, the 60-piece orchestra. And I'm hoping that will come together because, as you well know, to find funding for such a mammoth project like that is quite something. And I think they have.
Mhm. And have you played any of the songs from this record live yet? What's the emotion when you're on stage
Only
playing these?
with my band Keep On Walking,
Mhm.
and we're going to add Stormy River to the set. It's hard for me to get through that
Yeah.
one, but I think I'm going to add it. And I performed it once with the Quebec Philharmonic last year, and this was like 2 months before Trisha passed, and I could hardly get through it. And so I'm betting I'll get through it, but I hope I will.
Yeah. Well, we've been spending some time here with Gino Vannelli. The record is called The Life I Got, My Most Beloved. It is a beautiful record. It's a very moving record. It's out everywhere February 7th. And Gino, I thank you. I thank Trish for being as strong as she was. And
Thank you.
you could tell how special your relationship was just by listening to this record. It's very meaningful.
Thank you, Jeff. You take care.
You as well. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Best of luck on the
Bye-bye.
record.
Thank you.